The Knicks look like a team that's lost identity. This franchise is in a mess. Since they lifted the NBA Cup, the momentum has evaporated. Over the last games, they're just losing points. That's not a temporary lull. That's a trend. They've taken some brutal losses, embarrassed by Sacramento, steamrolled by Golden State. When Jalen Brunson sat out, that's the team the Knicks wanted to catch in the East.
Making tough shots, contested shots, I mean, those are things you can live with.
Instead, the Pistons have pulled away. They've also been blown out by Philly, handed an obvious loss to Atlanta, and just haven't looked like the Cup era team. Call it a curse if you want, the NBA Cup hex. But whatever the label, their defense has been an absolute disaster. Offense, they're still elite, top 10 scoring, and Jalen Brunson has been huge. But offense alone won't paper over a defense leaking points every single night. You don't need to be a basketball savant to see it. When opponents move the ball freely and flirt with points without breaking a sweat, you're not going to win consistently. Any semi-organized offense right now could exploit the Knicks' defensive mess. The standings have shifted dramatically. There was a narrative that New York could still climb to the top of the East, maybe even take the 1 seed from Detroit. That window has closed. The Pistons are up on the Knicks. New York has fallen behind Boston into the 3 or 4 seed range, depending on how you slice it. They're barely ahead of Toronto by a half game for that 4 spot, and only 2 games clear of Philly and Orlando. Cleveland is 2.5 games back. The Knicks are no longer a clean-cut top 2 team. They look shaky as a 3 or 4 seed, and that's alarming. At the center of this decline are the Knicks' 2 best players, Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Offensively, when those two are together, the numbers are electric. They create, they score, they make life difficult for defenses. But defensively, they're liabilities. Not a little sketchy, full-on liabilities. Last season, the team masked some defensive shortcomings to make a conference finals run. This year, they're 19th in defensive rating for the season and 2nd worst over the recent 15-game sample. When Brunson and KT share the floor this season, the offense hums. Offensive rating in the 125 range is elite, but the defensive rating sits around the 121 mark. That's flirting with giving up more points than you score if things go sideways. Their net is still positive in that split, but it's not nearly as effective or sustainable as you'd hope for a pairing expected to lead a title run. Against top-tier opponents, they get exposed even more. Brunson is outstanding on offense, near all-star level, and maybe the most consistent scoring guard. But he isn't a shutdown perimeter defender who can paper over issues. Opponents attack him, screen him, force rotations, and he gets picked apart sometimes. KAT isn't a traditional rim protector who can compensate. He's a phenomenal offensive center with range and skill, but he isn't Rudy Gobert anchoring the paint. That leaves holes on the perimeter and around the rim when those two are the focal point defensively. The supporting cast isn't covering the gap reliably. Jordan Clarkson has defensive limitations. Juice McBride, who used to be a dependable on-ball team defender, has been asked to carry more offensive load and hasn't been as consistent closing out shooters or navigating switches. Mitchell Robinson still does what he can as a rim presence, but injuries, foul trouble, and missed time have undermined his impact. I thought certain offseason signings would help shore up the defense. That hasn't really materialized. The roster lacks consistent high-level perimeter defenders who can hold up one side of the equation when Brunson and Kat play big minutes together. To make matters worse, Kat's offensive output this season hasn't matched last season's career best year. He looked different early. There was a moment where he sounded hesitant about the new system.
It was crazy. I had seen everybody. I had worked out Friday morning at the practice facility.
For a while, it seemed like he and the coaching staff were syncing, but since the Cup, his scoring has dipped. In the 15 games after the Cup, he's hit 25 plus points only twice. That drop puts more pressure on Brunson and the role players to create offense. And when the defense is folding, that's toxic. Micah Brown isn't immune here. I applauded the hire and still think he's probably the right coach long term. But there appears to be friction between what he wants defensively and how Kat sees his role. Sometimes Towns looks engaged engaged, other times passive. There were plays where he didn't hustle back or rotate as emphatically as you'd expect from an all-world talent. Chemistry matters, effort matters, and right now, the vibes feel off. You can point fingers at player buy-in or at the coaching staff for strategy and rotations. The truth is probably a mix of both. A big concern is health. If Brunson misses meaningful time, this team will struggle beyond missing scoring punch. He's been elite offensively. Scoring and efficiency are up, playmaking solid, and he's a primary reason they stay in games. But his defense is not a strength. If he's out for any stretch, you'd have to be extremely optimistic to think the Knicks survive intact in a crowded East. There was a stretch where this roster looked like it could run the table, a 7-game winning streak before the Cup, and a road win at Indiana. That confidence feels shaken now. I still see fans and analysts calling the Knicks Eastern favorite.
To the Knicks with Jalen Brunson, make them the favorites in the Eastern Conference.
But I'm losing faith. The Pistons look like a better team right now, and teams like Boston, if Jason Tatum returns, or Cleveland, if they keep improving, could give New York real problems. Even franchises with less playoff pedigree could bully the Knicks with offensive firepower and schematic discipline. And the schedule doesn't hand them an easy out. They've got a gauntlet coming up. Philly, Toronto, Boston, another Sixers matchup, and a brutal mid-February to mid-March stretch, including Denver, Detroit, Boston, Indiana, Philly, Houston, Chicago, Cleveland, Milwaukee, San Antonio, Toronto, Oklahoma City, Denver again, the Lakers, and the Clippers. That stretch can make or break a season. If they don't find answers before that sprint, they risk tumble-down effects in the standings and organizational confidence. Playoffs are not just about talent. They're about tough-minded defense and consistent identity. Right now, New York's defensive identity is unclear. So the larger question, can the Knicks win a title with Brunson and Cat as the top two pieces if both are defensive weaknesses? I'm getting skeptical. Even if they ride hot offense to the finals, I wouldn't pick them over teams like Oklahoma City or Denver in a series. Those teams can expose defensive holes and force perfect offensive execution night after night. Give up 115, 120 consistently. That's a death sentence in playoff basketball. Maybe the NBA Cup curse is real. There's a pattern of winners stumbling afterward. But I don't want to reduce this to superstition. The real problems are concrete. Defensive breakdowns, an uncertain fit between Cat and Brown's system, role players not executing on that end, and injury risk. Those are fixable in theory, but they require honest evaluation and likely roster tinkering. If this continues, the conversation about whether to break up the Brunson-Cat core will only get louder. I'm not ready to say that yet, but I'm close to being out on a championship blueprint that relies solely on those two. I want to hear what you think. What should the Knicks do at the trade deadline? Which pieces do they need to add to make the defense respectable? Who's at fault? The players for not buying in, or Mike Brown for not getting his message through? Can this group salvage the season and find a defensive identity in time for that brutal February-March stretch? Drop your takes in the comments. Quickly, a few other games from tonight to wrap up. Double check official lines if you want exact numbers. The Thunder picked up another convincing win. The Pistons beat the Suns in a close one with Jalen Brunson standing out. Boston mounted a comeback past Miami. The Spurs handled Milwaukee decisively. Orlando won in Berlin against Memphis. The Mavericks exploded for a massive scoring night. Portland beat Atlanta with a balanced effort, and Charlotte lit up LA behind a huge shooting night from LaMelo Ball. Those are the headlines. Check the official box scores for full verification. Alright, that's where we're at. Disappointed, frustrated, and increasingly worried about New York's ability to be a true title contender as currently constructed. If you enjoyed the breakdown, hit like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts below. Thanks for watching.